there have been quite a few people who have been inspirational to me and who have inspired me to get more involved and become more active and dedicated to this movement. And Jeremiah is one of them. He is the author of Holy Lockdown, Does the Black Church Limit Progress? And The New Doubting Thomas, the Bible, Blind Folks, and Blind Belief. He is also the producer of the documentaries Contradiction and the newly released Holy Hierarchy, The Religious Roots of Racism in America, both of which are available on Amazon Prime. Jeremiah is also the creator of the popular YouTube series Slave Sermons and has been a frequent speaker and guest with Black Nonbelievers, including the Blackout Secular Rally in 2013. Please help me welcome to the stage Jeremiah Camara.
I'm not ready. It's not 10 o'clock yet. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. All right. I probably don't even need this mic, but I'll go ahead and use it. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right. All right. So I'm going to just go ahead and get started. Bear with me just for 1 second. Okay, all right. Let me see, is this working? Hello, testing, testing. Well, I'm gonna tell you, Mandisa, thank you for inviting me again. It's always wonderful to hook up with you. Congratulations on the 10th anniversary. I was putting out slave sermons and videos back in the day, and I kept seeing this one woman's face showing up agreeing with stuff. I was like, who is this woman? So I had a book signing out in East Atlanta somewhere, Greenbrier Mall, and that's where we met. And I tell you, Mandisa is like the connector of dots. She has connected me with so many people that I have met that I will always be friends with forever. So I thank you for that. I appreciate that. It feels so great to be a non-believer. It is just, I can't tell you how liberating it is. It's so liberating, I'm gonna take this sweater off right now. And thanks for this shirt, I appreciate it. I like this shirt. It kind of shows my muscles a little bit. But it feels so good to be a non-believer. It's very liberating. Just walk around and don't have that pressure of what would Jesus do, you know. Me and Jesus Christ have the same initials, JC. So, you know, instead of, WW, what would Jesus do? The same for me. What would Jeremiah Camara do? That's what I say. But I'm going to talk about my favorite subject. You know, the name of my title, what's the name of my title? What is, speech today is, was it really a God? Before I get to that, I'm going to talk about my favorite subject, me. Okay. I stopped watching the news back in March. I haven't watched the news, not local, not CNN, not MSNBC, not Fox, not anything since March. March the 11th actually was my last day. So I'm coming up on a year. And you think it feels good to be a non-believer. It is really liberating not to cut on the news sometimes and just go about your day and have a normal day where you're not listening to a bunch of stuff. And it's really helped me for the year, I'm telling you. And I'll get to that later. But the news seemed to have 4 things that they talked about: COVID, Biden, Trump, racism. COVID, Biden, Trump, racism. COVID, Biden, Trump, racism. And you know, I deal with whites all the time. 50% of my clientele is white. And there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of interactions between blacks and whites that are positive. They go on every day that you'll never hear about. And so it doesn't really fit their agenda. It's not bloody enough. It's not sexy enough to talk about the good things that happen between blacks and whites on a daily basis. And, you know, I know that the news has an agenda, but I look at this age that we're in as far as black people are concerned, as the age of appeasement. I think we're being appeased. Now, I do watch television from time to time, and if you cut on the commercials, first of all, it's almost impossible not to see a black on commercials now. We're like 13, 14% of the population, but we're like 95% of the people on commercials. We're so overrepresented. And so it's kind of like an appeasement thing that's going on. And, you know, I got on my phone a list of about 75 to 100 commercials where there's blacks and whites together in the commercial, and it's always the blacks who are the smartest, who are on top, and the blacks being the dumb one. You know, the black man will come outside, you know, in his robe, and the white guy, he'll be draped in toilet paper, and the black guys look at him like, you know, and that's kind of like appeasing me. I don't want to be appeased. I don't need to be appeased. And the news, I'm not done talking about the things that happened in the 90s. Let's finish talking about how the CIA planted drugs in the black community that they admitted to. I'm not done talking about that. There's a whole lot of stuff that's going on, but I still want to discuss that. Because when you talk about black people, you got to have two stories. There's a pre-crack and a post-crack black folk. The pre-crack black people are different than the post-crack black people. So I think it's important, you know, we had a few politicians, Maxine Waters and a few others, Dick Gregory, of course, he's no longer here, that brought that up, but I'm still disturbed because we will be crawling out from under the rubbish from what crack cocaine left behind for many generations. What you see now in black society is the rubbish from crack cocaine. And we were poisoned. So I would like to get reparations from that. Let's talk about that. Let's deal with that. And so the news doesn't play my game, so I'm not going to play its game. And I also realized that there are over a dozen intelligence organizations that, I'm gonna need some water eventually, but there are over a dozen intelligence organizations. Two of the most prominent are the CIA and the NSA, okay? All of their activities are clandestine. They're secretive. We don't know anything about it, okay? And they are always on some type of covert operative or whatever. And we have dozens of secret societies, and they're clandestine and secretive. So I'm trying to think, if that's the case, over a dozen, about 16 or 17 intelligence organizations, what does the news have to offer you then? They offer you fodder, who shot who, or who said the N-word in Podunk, West Virginia, and I really don't need to hear about that. I'm not proselytizing or advocating that we stop watching the news, but what I'm saying is very, very liberating. So, being a non-believer makes me see the world realistically. Although I don't watch the news, I don't feel like I'm lagging behind intellectually or lagging behind in information of any kind. I talk to people who do watch news, and I can have a conversation with them because you're eventually gonna find out what's going on. You're gonna know. Just through osmosis, you're gonna find out what happened in the world. But right now I'm in the third quarter. You know, this is football playoffs, Brother Alvin. And I'm in the third quarter right now. And I hope I have a lot of time left in the third quarter before I reach the fourth quarter, okay? And I just don't have a lot of time to give to Trump and company. Life is precious. And I'm just not committed to giving them all of my time. I had 2 grandbabies born in 2020. My time is going to them. And I value my time, and it's precious to me, and I just can't give it all away like that. 2020 was the best year that I had. financially. And just having 2 more grandchildren, I just had a fantastic year. And I know that everybody didn't, and my heart goes out to those people, not my thoughts and prayers, but my heart goes out to those people who may have lost loved ones and who probably had a rough year. It's been a fantastic year for me. A lot of people made a lot of money in 2020. And I heard this one man say, he said, fear those people who are greedy, but be greedy toward those people who are fearful. Now, I'm not advocating be greedy toward anybody, but I just want to say that we can never underestimate, or underappreciate the impact that fear has on our overall well-being. Fear is detrimental to our overall well-being. And Doc, I'm sure you know that. Once you are fearful, it drops your whole inner and outer countenance on levels that are unspeakable. So let's deal with this virus. Let's be smart about it. But fear is not something that we should be. My focus was on building my immune system, staying healthy, and earning money. And so my wife and me and my wife, we watched a lot of YouTube for information about taxes and PPP loans and grants and things that have to do with making money, being healthy, and reducing our dependency on this establishment. And I definitely acknowledge that the virus is a real thing. But I just didn't have fear. And I think that when you don't believe that there's a God watching you that's going to exact some type of punishment on you, you're just not afraid of anything. Once you get past that, fear is no longer in your life. And so as a non-believer, I know how organized religion came to be. Therefore, I'm conditioned to ask questions about everything. I didn't really understand, I'm getting to my topic, what was it really a God? But I didn't quite understand how Fauci all of a sudden became a God. Fauci is the God. Thou shalt have no other virologists before Fauci. He came down with the tabernacle of the information on viruses. Thou shalt have no other information other than what Fauci gives. And I just don't see that being right in a democratic society, which is about choices. And there were many virologists who were younger, but had mass amount of experience. They had different viewpoints and different opinions than Fauci and would have went about it in a different way that we censored. You had this much time to capture their video on YouTube before they were taken off, before they were censored. And all I'm saying is, there's more than one point of view out here, and we should explore them all. But when I step back from the news, it enabled me to seek out other points of views and other opinions and other approaches to this pandemic or plandemic or whatever you want to call it. I live in Georgia. Me and Mandisa, a lot of other people here live in Georgia. And of course, we never shut down in Georgia. But we did have rough times in April, in late March and April. And it did give me a lot of time to think and reflect upon my life, my family, and this country, and where we are going religiously, what was going on from a religious standpoint. We saw very clearly the lack of power that this invisible God that we believe in had during this past year or so. And, they say this God sits high and looks low, but he obviously doesn't sit low enough to be able to deal with this teeny-weeny microscopic virus that he has no control over. And yet, out of fear, many people continue to pray and that themselves and their loved ones wouldn't fall victim to it. Now, I'm going to get off the track a little bit of street epistemology here, which I definitely respect that. But, if I was a believer, I'd be embarrassed to be represented by a God who never prevents anything from happening. We only go to this God after something bad has happened, after the damage has already been done. He's not a preventer. And this God would definitely serve humanity best if he, she, or it, or whatever operated in the realm of prevention. I don't say I don't believe in God, because that's implying that there is one to believe in or disbelieve in. I say I don't believe in a God, because there are millions of gods. So I don't believe in a God. I always put the article the or in front of God. And't be embarrassed. We call on this God when bad things happen, when the damage has been done. But what kind of God do we really have that can't stop bullets? That's what black people need. Black people need a God that can stop bullets. There are so many black people that have stories about how this loved one had been shot and killed. This loved one has been shot and killed. I have that story in my family. My nephew was murdered while he was living with me. What kind of God? Listen, if you have a God, you need a superhero type of God. Superman can bend steel with his bare hands and do all this miraculous stuff. And here you have a God that you pray to, that you love, and that you believe in, and he can't even stop desperately the bullets that you desperately need to be stopped. What kind of God can't annihilate cancer? What kind of God cannot catch a helicopter before it plummets to the ground and kills innocent people and children? What kind of God does that? Like I've always said, if there was a God, the good ship Jesus, which was our first slave ship, would have sunk if there was a God. The Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria would have sunk if there was somebody actually watching. But we don't have that. This God doesn't work in the realm of prevention. And he's on? Okay. 9:40? Okay, so I'm going to, abbreviate this, and I'm going to go down here to, was it really a God? I had a lot to talk about. Okay. So I'm going to let him go on. I'll pick up where I left off, because I want to talk about how I met my wife, and was it really a God, and tell you some of the things that actually transpired. And so, this God has obviously failed, but of course we now believe that we have a president who will now do what this invisible God just can't do. So we have a president now. Now maybe Biden, who's obviously about as old as Jesus is, would have, that's a joke, y'all. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. I mean, but he is 78, and we were bitching about Reagan being 74. But anyway, maybe he'll do a better job than this God has done when it comes to police violence. He said he's going to end all of that, right? I think religion is the primary cause of racism. I think it's the primary cause of racist, violent acts in this country. And I know that sounds absurd, but in my film, Holy Hierarchy, the religious roots of racism in America, I do my best to demonstrate how religion is the root of racism. And it breaks it down. There are no opinions. I'm telling you the facts, the laws that were written, okay, that have made racism an institution. Many of our politicians are prayer warriors who believe that there is a God in charge of our lives that's going to make everything better. We prayed for Obama. You remember that? I remember. There were so many prayer vigils that was going on in Atlanta for Obama to be president. Oh, we held hands, we touched each other, they were in circles and they prayed for Obama. There was much jubilation over his election or selection or whatever you want to call it. And in the years during his presidency, what happened? We saw Trayvon Martin. We saw Freddie Gray. We saw Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Philando Castile, Tamir Rice, Mike Brown, and many other black men who were shot down after we prayed for Obama and our prayers were so-called answered. But this God, as usual, never prevented anything. So here we are as black people again, elated now. We're ready. As a former believer, and it's been 40 years because I haven't believed since I was probably like 22 years old. But as a former believer, I was taught to pay no attention to the affairs of man's government. We all were taught that. People who were Christians, they tell us, don't get into man. That's man's government. We have the government of God that we should concern ourselves with. So why are believers only concerned about the government and kingdom of their God? Why are you concerned about Democrats and Republicans when you have your God? Now, every time I went on YouTube to learn about finance or the latest laws pertaining to small businesses, I was rudely interrupted by Reverend Raphael Warnock's campaign ads. It pissed me off. Now, in the world of Christianity, how can a man serve both the government of man and the government of God? It tells you you cannot serve two masters. So you come from the pulpit and now you're going to the Senate. Don't you think you would have a better chance if God is on our side, who can be against us? If God is with you, who can be against you? How many times have you said that? But now you're a senator. It's so contradicting. I don't get it. I don't understand it. The state, all of these states showed you who had the real power because you had to close your churches. The state said, thou shalt not open anymore on Sunday. And we had to do it. So you had people sitting in their cars with the windows down and these preachers on these megaphones. They see that didn't work because it was hard to pass the tray around like that to get the money, so they had to end that. So I'm confused about that. How can all these religious politicians like Mike Pence, who can't say a word without uttering God, or he's so religiously, and I'm sorry, this is not street epistemology, but he's a religious idiot. Mike Pence and Raphael Warnock and they're serving two gods. Now I know Donald Trump said a lot of racist stuff. I know he did, okay? I didn't focus on it. I was trying to get mine. I can't get mine listening to what Trump said. But one of the things, the most racist thing that I heard Trump say, and you could line up all the stuff that he said, but the most racist thing that I heard him say, he said, I'm going to protect Christianity. Woo! Now that's a euphemism for I am going to protect white supremacy. You cannot talk about racism without talking about white supremacy, and you cannot talk about white supremacy without talking about Christianity. They are inseparable. They are one and the same. They have the chapel on the 11th floor in this hotel. I tried to get up there. I was trying to get a key, trying to get in there, because I know when you go in there, it's somewhere in there it's going to be a picture of a white Jesus. Somewhere in that chapel, okay? And as I walked the streets here with my wife here in New Orleans, I saw some images of white Jesus. And let me tell you, if Jesus is white, then damn, we should all understand white supremacy then. If he's white, we should all understand white supremacy a little better. Why do we have a problem with white supremacy if Jesus is white? We should understand how they feel superior than everybody else when this God is made in their image. Now, There are many professions, such as, pilots and people in, different positions in the medical field that require mental screenings, right? Why don't politicians get mental screenings? Now, if one was to ask Raphael Warnock or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Mike Pence or Stacey Abrams or 99% of these politicians, if they believe in Jesus, they would absolutely say, yes, I do. So now, wait a minute, you do. So now that means you believe that there was a man who was born of a woman who had you, didn't have sex, walked on water normally, died, came back to life, and it happened 2,000 years ago, and this person is still alive watching every move that you make. Y'all believe that, and you are in positions to run this country. And we vote for these people. Now, if you had a friend, say his name was John, and you knew him since grade school. I know I got 4 minutes. And you knew John since grade school, because I really want to finish. But you knew John since grade school, right? And you call him from time to time. Sometimes you connect with him on Facebook. John, how you been doing, man? Man, I've been good. I'm still in having my leprechaun meetings, and I'm waiting on this pot of gold, that's gonna come very soon. And I attend my meetings on Thursday, and I'm doing very well. Your friend Bob would say, man, you talk to John? He said, yeah, man, but John is, it's kind of cuckoo, man. I really don't deal with him a lot. You would kind of distance yourself from John. But here are these politicians believing the same thing, same absurdity. I would much rather be in a foxhole with a non-believer who's a humanist, because they would rescue me when the believer would say, you know what, I had to leave you down there because God told me to get the heck up out of there, man. My Lord told me that. There is something detrimental going on with religious people. They affect us. They really do. How sound-minded do you think any of these politicians can really be? Now, this new group of politicians that we have now, they claim to end police violence and COVID and every other social ill that plagues society. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me decade after decade after decade as a black person to believe that you're gonna do something for me, shame on me now. I have no faith in the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. The only people that's gonna do for black people are black people. So now you got this man who's 78, and I don't mean to get on his age like that, but I'm just saying, you lose some of your mental edge at 78. What country elects someone at 78 years old? We'll be lucky if he's alive or doesn't have dementia by the time his first term is over with. But yet he's come to the rescue. He's going to save us now. I don't buy that. I don't know why anyone is buying that. I know that they're not going to do anything, but I do know one thing, that their God that they pray to is certainly not going to do anything. For every so-called miracle, there's always a human being behind it. Now, racism, and I'm gonna close with this because it's 9, I'll end right here, because I definitely want to talk about some of my experiences growing up and how it brought me to this point. But I'll end with this right now. Racism will die as religion dies. As religion dies, so will racism. I'm gonna stop right there.